Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we got Trevor Lee, House District 16.
Yes.
And you're running for re-election.
Yeah. Been at this for 2 years now, and it's what I feel like time to give it another shot at another 2.
Yeah. I mean, you have this reputation on Twitter where people, I know the Tribunes come after you many times. And I think the expectation was you going into the session, you were going to be this massive bomb thrower.
Right.
But it didn't turn out that way, did it?
No. In fact, that was the wording behind everything that I was doing as I was running, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Everything that I have done has been for my constituents. The bills that I run, how I vote is what they would like to have done. And I'm also very willing to listen and make sure that they have a voice, even if we don't agree on the issues.
You seem to have a good rapport with your colleagues in the House.
Yeah, we get along very well. In fact, I'm getting endorsements from just about any legislator that is in the House and many in the Senate as well. And because of that, they want me back because of the way that I have worked so well with them. They can depend on my vote. And Senator, something that you would understand fully with this is, anytime a big bill is run, those representatives or those senators aren't just looking at the bill for themselves. It's how are my colleagues going to look at this? Is this something that they also are going to be voting for? It's not just a single vote, right? You need to get the majority of people to have something go into law, and then you also need to look at where the governor is going to be at on that. So because of where I stand on issues, they love having me there because they can count on my vote, and they can know that if it's a conservative issue or if it's a conservative policy, I'm going to be there for them.
And that's ultimately so. Of the legislation that you've been involved in, what are the things that really stick out in your mind that you're proud of, even if you didn't run them, right? Things that you helped on.
Yeah. So a lot of the big stuff. I would specifically talk about my first term in office the first session. We had the school choice. That was a big deal. In fact, it had been said many times over. Without individuals such as myself, that legislation never would have passed. They had done something like vouchers back in the 2008 era, shot it down after that. But without some of this younger new blood or those who believe in the parental choice to have their kids have that option, that bill was able to pass.
Well, I love the messaging on that. You fit, right? To find something that fits your child, recognizing that children are all different. What's surprising to me on that legislation is, I mean, we basically allocated $80 million, right? Since I've been in the Senate, we've put an additional $3 billion into public ed.
Right.
That pales in comparison, right? But what's interesting to me is that the response has been overwhelming. I mean, we probably can give out 10,000 scholarships. There's way over 15,000 applications already. Estimates are that could go as high as 40,000 people trying to do that. And the surprising thing is it came largely from not rich kids, which is what the media would tell you, right? It's kids that are parents who were getting their kids out of schools that aren't doing anything for their kids.
Correct.
And I should rephrase that. They're not doing what the child needs, right?
Right. Well, and our state constitution is very clear. Parents are first and foremost responsible to rear and educate their children. This legislation gives them another tool or the ability to be true to that. And that's what I love is we've also been very, as you said, we've been very good about making sure that we are not taking from public ed by doing this. The argument or the sentiment out there is that we are going to destroy public ed or we're not going to keep funding it. But that could be further from the truth. We have given them, on average, an 8% increase in funding year after year the last decade. That's huge. That is more funding than any other institution in the entire state. In fact, you can combine a lot of them, and it's going to be way more than what they've received. That shows that in good faith, we are just trying to help children, and parents have that choice to make sure they're educated in the best manner that is suitable for them.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are some of the other pieces of legislation? I know you did. You worked on that quite a bit.
Yes.
Pull people over.
Some of the other big stuff has been, and a lot of it would seem to be the controversial issues. But I think they're very important because it's what the majority of my constituents believe. It's what the majority of Utahns believe, such as diversity, equity, and inclusion. Does that even have a place, or should it have a place anywhere within our school system? Once again, I don't think...
Well, and on that particular bill, we had this Supreme Court decision that basically said affirmative action
Correct.
is unconstitutional, right?
That's exactly right. And we're seeing that more and more now. As we have been moving legislation to the right, we're seeing a lot of the judicial actions at the Supreme Court align with what we are trying to do as a sovereign state in Utah, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think people have to understand that was one of the reasons why that was pushed forward, right? Because that bill to me came out. I mean, if you read the Atlantic article, they said, Utah managed to do this without being Florida, right? Which you have to realize that's coming from the left, right?
Right.
But they actually talked about the fact that it was a bill that was really aimed at being fair to everybody.
Yeah, and what I would say is this is the Utah way of doing things. We do things here right. We do them very well. This is why, economically and rich state, poor states, we're always number one. We tend to lead out on issues. And in fact, even if you dive into a lot of the really controversial issues, talking about DEI or any of the transgender issues when it comes to sports, children, or even bathrooms, we have legislation that is very well thought out, that we look at it from all angles. We bring all stakeholders to the table. We make sure that if we do this, it's going to stick. And it's not going to cost the taxpayers money, but it's going to protect a lot of the importance of, for example, the woman that we have in our society. And so Utah does it in a good way. And I would also argue that I have really helped push and drive a lot of the votes, or have helped bring those to the table who want to on those issues. And they're all very important. When you go talk to individuals, no one wants the controversy. No one wants the mudslinging, the mud flinging. But we have come to a point now where we have a lot of very polarized problems that we may not have a lot of middle ground. And so it's up to us to make sure that we do what is the right thing, and also what is going to be satisfactory to those who we represent.
Right. Hey, we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back.
Okay.
Thanks. Hey Siri, how do I get to the state capitol?
John, the fastest way to get to the Capitol is to make a lot of empty promises, to get help from special interest groups and endorsements from politicians. You will also need to buy a better suit.
That's not going to work for me, Siri. You need to find another way.
John, listen to me. If you're going to win your race, you will need to play the political game. You also need to use more hairspray and buy a golden retriever. Also, a new phone case would be nice.
That's enough of this.
John, are you there? Did you just leave me on the road? Fine. Keep your principles, John.
My name's John Johnson. I'm not running to be part of a system, and I don't owe anyone special favors. I'm running to listen to and work for you. I'm running to get results. Welcome back to PoliticIt. We're here with Trevor Lee, House District 16.
Yes.
Candidate for re-election. This is your first re-election.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed the conversations. And in fact, one thing I would like to say is, after I had won at convention 2 years ago, I thought that was the end of it. I'd be good to go. I'm fine. But because I did have a write-in challenge from the incumbent at the time, I wouldn't say it forced me to work hard, because I'm always a very hard worker. I will outwork anyone, and I love winning. I don't know anyone who does like losing, but I do like winning. And it forced me to get out and really understand a lot more of the ideas and the values of those in the district, what they wanted. And it got me on many more doorsteps, and it made me understand much more of those needs as I went into that first session that year. So that was actually ended up being a blessing, or a very good thing for me as a representative.
And so you've noticed, as you've been out canvassing again, right, for this election, have you noticed that a lot of these people recognize you? And
yeah, well, and it's funny, most people don't know who the representative is,
right?
But for those who I have talked to, they absolutely do. I don't believe I've lost votes. I've had a lot of people said they're very happy. They love my transparency. One thing against my wife's wishes, but I don't have a legislative phone. I only have a personal phone. So if I have a constituent who wants to contact me, I'm available at all hours. And I make sure that if I don't get to them right away, I will always get back. They know that if they email me, if they text me, if they call me, I will respond. I will be available. And I try to be as transparent as possible with everything that I do, so they know what they're getting with Representative Lee in the area.
So why do you think that the press is always they seem like they come after you a lot?
Yeah,
and I recognize that because I get some of the same crap, right?
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if you know, but we won an award through City Weekly back in November.
Oh, what was that?
They're just being controversial.
Oh,
Senator Johnson, Representative Lee, and I think that we or conservative legislators or senators get a lot of heat.
You use the word controversial, and that's interesting because it seems to me that we spend more time aligned with people in Utah. But yet that's controversial, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the world we live in now. Take, for example, what happened with Michael Knowles. Just came to Utah, works for the Daily Wire, a very conservative man, a very Catholic-going man,
right?
Very religious. And he, from our local media, got called out as being far right. Well, I don't believe there's anything far right about what Michael Knowles believes. He's just a good conservative man who believes in traditional family values. And he got hammered for believing that there are only two genders, a male and a female. Well, that didn't used to be controversial. So we haven't changed, but I believe the media and a lot on the left have really pushed how extreme they are on those issues.
Well, and I noticed he, in retort, I guess, he tweeted out the Proclamation of the Family.
Yes.
And basically just says, I agree with everything in here, right?
Absolutely. And do you remember, Senator, when that document came out, was there anything at all in that document that was considered controversial? No. But it now all of a sudden is controversial in this day and age. And that's where you're seeing the polarization of issues. And so my stance hasn't changed. Your stances haven't changed. But theirs have. And we are now considered controversial because we are conservatives. We are conserving our history, our culture, scientific facts, whether it comes to anything on the climate, whether it comes to the family. Those issues are very important. If you lose those issues, what do you have? What do you have? If we can't agree on basic biology, what else? There's no middle ground, I believe, on those issues. And we can't secede those. Because if we secede basic eternal truths, then what else are we willing to secede? And that's why we are considered controversial, because we are willing to stand up for truths and what is right.
So what are some other hot button issues for you?
Well,
I know you've worked on you've worked on immigration things.
Yeah, so I ran the only bill this last session that was trying to address the immigration crisis that we have on the border. And when I say immigration crisis, I need to clarify illegal immigration crisis. In Utah, we are very friendly as it pertains to refugees, to bringing those who want to come here legally. We believe they should have a path and a way, and there is. But those who break the law is only affecting and hurting every one of us. And the border is full of drug trafficking. It's got human trafficking. The cartels are making billions and billions of dollars on a weekly basis, trafficking individuals across the border. We can't have that. We need law and order in our state. We need law and order in our country. And one of the issues that we have seen as it pertains to illegal immigration, why it's so tenuous right now, is because the federal government has said, I'm sorry, Texas, I'm sorry, Arizona, I'm sorry, Utah. You guys cannot do anything about this issue. We may hand people to you in your state or send them here or release them, but you can't do anything about it.
So what does your bill do?
So mine was a very basic bill. In fact, I kind of got a little criticism that it didn't have teeth to it. But what happened with this is ICE is released individuals into our state without letting us know. And all my bill does is it says they need to let our local sheriffs know with a 3 days advance notice who they are bringing here, who they are releasing, who is in their custody, who is in our state. And just give us the upfront transparency of who those individuals are. Now, that bill doesn't have a lot of teeth behind it because there really isn't legally a lot that you could do. However, as we did pass with Senator Sandals' bill this last session, as we're seeing now with Texas and Arizona, we are a sovereign state. We have rights. The 10th Amendment is still very important. So what can we do? If this goes to court and we do, let's say, have this battle about what can we do on this issue, we can look back on, let's say, my bill, HB 165, and we did everything we could in good faith to say we tried to solve this issue and work with you in ICE. We just said, just let us know. Just be transparent with us. And if they can't even do that, I'm very confident the Supreme Court will side with us on this critical issue if we have to go that route.
Well, I was kind of surprised that was controversial.
Yeah.
Right. So what was driving the animus towards that bill?
You know, after, you know, for being controversial, it had a lot of support. The controversy on it is the same arguments that we have with anyone on the division in Democrats and Republicans as it pertains to the border and immigration. You know, as Republicans, we believe in law and order. We believe that those who come here we need to know who's here. We need to stop the human trafficking. We need to stop the drug cartels. And that is completely being facilitated at the border by the cartels, who 100% of all the crossings, the cartel have everything to do with it. Well, that's scary.
Yeah, it surprised me when I went with AFP down to the border to find out that the cartels truly do control our immigration system.
It's a disaster down there. And this is a Republican-Democrat issue. And why I say that is the day one that Biden got into office, he got rid of every executive order that Trump had done to help seal the border the best that he could, which was stay in Mexico policy, which was making sure that you have a wall that is starting to go up.
No more catch and release.
No more catch and release. I mean, he just wiped all that out. Those were good policies. They were good for our country. And why would he do that? Well, you'd have to ask Democrats why they're willing to do that. But we believe that we need to know who's here. We have to be able to vet them. And we have to be able to stop this trafficking and the drugs, which the fentanyl is now a big deal in our state. And most of the fentanyl is coming through the border. That is very problematic. If you talk to the Highway Patrol, they'll tell you when they do stops and they find the drugs in the car, the cartels and those who are trafficking the drugs used to at least hide it, but they'll just, he says they'll just find it wide open. They'll look in the back seat and just see drugs sitting there. They don't, I mean, there is so much coming across and so much flowing through our state that they don't even try to hide it in most cases. And that is extremely dangerous, extremely problematic. So this whole controversy behind it, I don't see it. Once again, I've always been a staunch follow the law kind of guy, and as most conservatives have. But at some point along the line, it has turned into this, we need to be sympathetic and just allow everyone into our country without borders. I mean, that is what a lot of Democrats want now.
Yeah. So we're about out of time. Why don't you make I mean, you've got a convention coming up, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And why don't you make a final pitch to your delegates?
I'm Trevor Lee, and I'm running for re-election for House District 16. I have committed to being a staunch conservative, and represent you, my constituents, in the area of District 16. By doing so, I have felt like my promises that I have made you have been kept. I've also been transparent. I listen, and I make sure that if we do not agree, you still feel like your voice is heard in the area that I represent. I also want to point out once again, I only run bills that come from you, my constituents that want to have a voice heard at the legislature. I also want to make it really is an important part to why I'm running for re-election is because my colleagues in the legislature love having me there. I've been someone who they can depend on for those votes. I'm someone who they can go to help run critical legislation and to also be a co-sponsor to those bills. And so that is one of the reasons I'm running for House District 16 for re-election.
Thank you. Trevor Lee. We'll see you guys next week.